First things first, to understand the nature of the threat that we are being confronted with, let's establish some pretty clear facts. We are being threatened with one-party dictatorship by the Republican Party. I mean, that is very clear. They already have firm control over the Supreme Court. And through the Supreme Court, they are eviscerating what we understand to be precedents, which most of English law and United States law is founded upon. So they're just shredding it to make sure that they can rule how they want to rule. They can take us back to the 16th century, back to Handmaid's Tale version of the world. And now they're definitely poised by all indications from all the polls and all the momentum and all of history to take back Congress in 2022, right? In November 2022. They'll definitely secure the Senate. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. They really, in effect, already have it now with Cinema and Manchin Act in their interest. Well, they'll have it outright through hook or crook, definitely by the end of November 2022. And then they'll have the House. That means they'll have two branches of government. And then in 2024, they'll have a third by hook or crook, whether it's Trump or whether it's some Trump wannabe, the precedent is set, the politics are fully in motion. And they're going to try to, the best they can, to institute a fascist dictatorship. We should be very clear about that, be unabashed, and see the facts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. That part, I think we need to be very clear, and we need to be clear about how we're going to confront this. We're going to have to use every tool at our disposal to push back. And not just push back so that we can kind of return to some good old days that never existed. We're going to have to push back to make sure we not only defeat this fascist threat, but that we actually try to usher in the broad democratic society we want and need. I'm going to use an old phrase, the stakes are high, very high. If they should have their way, most of the things that people know to be, your fundamental civil rights, and I would argue deeper, your human rights, will be totally eviscerated. That includes the right to free speech, the right to assembly, the right to movement, to travel, fundamental economic rights, so the right to decent housing, the right to be protected at your workplace from poisons or a threatening work environment. All these things will be gone if these folks have their way. And that's just the minimum of it, right? And I'm not speaking conjecturally. I mean, all those different points I just, raised. I mean, they are the Supreme Court, even today, as we are recording this, basically banned any public protection against the pandemic by saying that, vaccines can't be mandated and shouldn't be mandated, which means that our health is no longer a public concern, but purely a private concern. So any and every space that you enter at your own risk. So I want everybody to think about that. And that's also the same when I mean about the right to kind of assembly. That's definitely being eviscerated all over the country, where they are banning protest laws, banning people from having the ability to protest against oil companies or against pipelines. This is stuff that's already going on. And then, threatening people's choices, as what's going on with the Supreme Court now, threatening a woman's right to choose control over her body. These are things that are being eviscerated, and the stakes are that they will get deeper and they will get worse once they really consolidate their power. We get out of the death grip by, one, having clarity of vision. We need to understand, I think, first of all, that, this fascist response is really that. It's a deep reaction, right? It's a reaction to the threat of climate change, right? And systems in, and those who have benefited from this capitalism, basically, just name the system and call it what. Those who have benefited the most from it, recognizing that their game is coming to a close. And this is just a kind of reaction to hold on for as long as they can. So we have to understand it and see it as a phase, right? And understanding that there's always something that's going to come after this, right? That's how history and things move. Well, how do we deliberately come out of it? It's going to require organization and organizing on a massive scale. And what do I mean by organizing? To demystify it, so folks don't think it's just some magical thing. We are all engaged in some form of organization, right? But to organize is to gather people in you want to have an intentional relationship with, and then come up with your divisions of labor and your essential tasks and the things that you want to accomplish, and then make a plan on how you want to accomplish it. And the critical difference what organizing means is that if someone was to call upon me and I was to call upon them, we are very clear about what it is that we want to do, how we're going to accomplish it, and with what time frame and with what resources, and then most importantly, with what commitment that we have to each other to execute the different things that we've outlined. Like, that's a sense of organization that we have to execute. And the right has that. They know that if they call, for a demonstration, who's going to come out? We have to get to a point where when we call for a demonstration or we call for a mobilization for labor purposes to farm or do whatever, right? To do some other kind of productive activity, we know who we can call upon to do the work to get us out of this mess. And it's organization that's going to carry us through the day, right? And organizations can be built fairly quickly, right? Let's not be mystified and think that it necessarily has to take years. For things to get stable, it definitely takes some time. But what we've witnessed, over the last 10 years in particular, is some marvelous accomplishments of mass movement, where millions of people got organized and mobilized, created temporal forms of organizing, say like Occupy or some of the different mutual aid or strike communities we saw last year with the George Floyd rebellion or during the pandemic. So we know we have the capacity. We know these are things that have been people's experience. Now we have to generalize that and come up with a political program that sees us through, not only to end this fascist threat, but to deal with climate change and to deal with creating a new regenerative economy, an eco-socialist economy from below that gets us to the human rights protections that we need, the full expression of our humanity that we've been so yearning for, and to do so within the ecological limits of the world, and not think that we're going to go to the moon or Mars and create something different by just taking the practices of extraction and exploitation that exist here and think they're going to work there and not produce the same results. We got to fix it here, and that's within our capacity to do. I know to many this sounds dire, and it should, right? Let's not lie to ourselves about what we're confronting and what's ahead of us, the hard struggle ahead of us. But let's also remember, humans have overcome a lot. I'm someone sitting here as testimony to a great struggle, right? The struggle of enslaved African people to reconquer their humanity, right, from being stripped. And that would not have happened had there not been massive solidarity amongst those who were enslaved. Deep care and love and respect for each other's humanity, right? Deep practices of mutual aid, supporting each other, and finding ways when it looked like there was no way to generate resources, right? The greatest resource being kind of our love and care and attention to each other and serving each other's needs. These are the things we're going to need to really call upon. Solidarity, mutual aid, self-defense. These are things we're going to have to really draw upon in this next period to get us through this, right? And we will find that we can do tremendous things once we are clear about what it is we need to accomplish and really commit ourselves to them, right? And we definitely cannot and should not fall prey to any notions of kind of American exceptionalism that not only can it not happen here, which is the common refrain, like fascism can't happen here, well, it is happening here. And then the other thing, well, we can't organize people here because they're too individualistic or they're too materialistic. Yes, we can. right? We've been doing it. Some of us who are from, oppressed communities, immigrant communities, underground communities, trans, queer communities have been doing this for a long, long time in the face of the systems of oppression that they're limited by. This is something that we're going to have to generalize, and folks need to look to those communities in the here and now to find out how people are making it and draw lessons from that and build solidarity with those folks to be able to kind of create the new systems of mutual aid and solidarity and respect and self-defense we're going to need.